I am Laura Cathcart Robbins, and this is the only one in the room. But I am never the only one in this room because, as usual, my boyfriend, producer, and co-host Scott Slaughter, who I call Hun, is here as well.
Hi, honey.
Hey, honey. So today we are talking to my longtime dear friend, Angelique Bates.
How
She
cool.
is a California native of Haitian and Bahamian Native American descent, is an entertainment industry veteran and legend, according to Google. Look it up. You may remember her from the #1 Nickelodeon hit show All That, an accomplished actress, dancer, and comedian, and more. Angelique is also a national spokesperson for domestic violence, rape, and child abuse survivors. Her worldwide fans are ages, I love this, 3 years old and up. So welcome to the show, Angelique.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm really glad we got this together, and we can't do this interview without us spending a little bit of time talking about how we met and when we met, because you were a kid when I met you.
Yes.
And so my ex-husband had co-created this show called All That. It was a sketch comedy show for kids. He did it with Nickelodeon, and they did a nationwide casting for this original cast. There are a lot of stars that came out of that. You're one of them. Keenan Thompson, who's been on the adult version of Saturday Night Live, because that's what it was. It was like the kids' Saturday Night Live. Keenan has been, is he the longest running SNL player?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, which is crazy. And when he was in Atlanta, I think, when he was cast, and ended up living with my ex-husband and I for a while, they just kind of worked things out because everybody had to come shoot. And Kel Mitchell, and you'll know the names of the other cast members better than me, but it was a chance that they took on this show with all these really, really talented child comedians. And it had never been done before. No one had seen anything like it before. And it exploded. It was a hit from the gate. And I remember walking on, I don't know what lot it was, but walking on the lot with a couple of you. And it was like the pandemonium outside, which was not for me.
Universal Studios.
Universal Studios, thank you. Yes. And it was just like you were like the cast of Friends or something. Like it was ridiculous before, that was before Friends. But so I met you, and you were this kid, and you were really peppy and talented and sweet and innocent. And, you were a woman of color, a girl of color. So I was automatically drawn to you like a big sister then, or more like, like I was probably between your mom's age and whatever. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, I wanted to take you under my wing. You were so lovable. You are so lovable.
Thank you.
And so, my experience was meeting you then. The show went on for a while. And before we talk about what happened, I want to know from you, like, what were the best things about being on a #1 TV show? What did you love about it?
Okay, so I didn't know it was the #1 television show because I still didn't have cable. Everyone else around me knew it was the #1 television show. Yeah. Universal Studios was like a playground to us. Yes. Some of us hadn't ever experienced anything like that. I think some of us came from smaller projects. Keenan was probably the only one that was actually the movie star already because he was doing Mighty Ducks. It was just, I'm an only child. So to be around all of the kids, and I was like very sheltered life, it was just like, oh my God, I'm around people.
Yeah.
There was the Gat Kitchen. You have these different celebrities coming in that you either have their cassette tape, or you're hearing their music on the radio, or you're seeing them on TV, and you're actually getting to see them in your dressing room and on the show. So it was just like, I don't think some of us really grasped what was happening. It was just like we were on a big playground and we were having fun. We didn't have to go to regular school.
Right.
And when you said the thing about Friends, there was Sequest. Sequest was the show next door to us that was filming. So we would always see, Jonathan and everything. And it was just like, oh my God, we know Jonathan, rest in peace. And it was just seeing these different people, and then we could go on Universal Studios whenever we wanted to, you know. So.
Right. And you did.
Yes, and we surely did.
And
We
you
utilized
did.
that.
Yeah. So, and then just some of the cassette tapes you're talking about, like TLC did the theme song for all that. You guys all did a video together, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I
Yes.
mean, it was crazy. It was the act, which was like the number one charting act of that week. It was you guys. It was really, I mean, it was a time to look back on. And you're right. I didn't know how big it was then either. You know, but I had cable, but until you start seeing it reflected back to you, though.
Right.
And it was totally obvious that you were enjoying yourself. Like everything that you just said, you were so enjoying just being around people and being part of, right? Being part of that amazing, amazing cast.
And I feel like that was the first time ever being on a plane.
Ah, yeah, probably, huh?
Yeah, I had never been on a plane before.
Yeah, wow. So if you look up Angelique on YouTube, which I did before this, even though obviously I know her, one of the first videos that came up for me was Randy and Mandy. That was you and Keenan. It was a cooking show.
Yeah.
And it's the chocolate turkey. It's the holiday one, right? It's the holidays.
Yeah.
Hilarious, an incredibly messy set. I don't know how you guys like cleaned up between takes, if you did it all in one take. Did you remember?
No, so we did it in different takes. So like when they have like the replica head, or like they might have had the turkey, there might have been only one turkey or only one replica head. So we had to like kind of get all the scenes done without like biting the ear, because that might have been the only ear.
Right.
It got to the point where like some of that stuff was really nasty. Like they're putting chocolate in spaghetti and on lobster and stuff. So we couldn't get it past our throat. So you might see like certain scenes where we have a towel underneath there and we're like, after the scene. But
but what about the milkshake? It looks like you're waterboarding him.
Oh my gosh.
You're pouring all the ingredients. This is how it goes.
Yes.
She's making a milkshake, but she's making it in Keenan Thompson. So he opens his mouth and like lays backwards, and you pour each ingredient into him and then shake him.
That was real. Yes. I forgot about that part. We mixed all of the real ingredients in there.
Yes, you did. I was just like, wait, that's torture.
It was very much torture.
Yeah, but you guys were really, I mean, you did it so well and you pulled it off so well, and it looks like you can see the chemistry there between the two of you.
Yeah.
So
that's
like
my
what it
big
looked like.
brother.
Yeah. He was, yes, yeah. It's so great. It's so great. It was so great to see all you kids. How many cast members were there? Do you remember?
I want to say, it's so funny. I should know this by now because they always ask me. Okay, so there's me, there's Keenan, Cal, there's Josh, Elisa, Katrina, and Lori Beth. So it's seven of us.
Okay, yeah.
Because originally there were supposed to be 5. I think that's what always throws me off. It was originally 5 of us, and then they brought 2 more in.
Okay. And you did Steve Urkel for your audition. Is that correct?
Yes, I did. Because I was completely in love with Jaleel White.
Well, apparently you slayed it, which I don't remember seeing that audition tape, but I mean, the chatter about it afterwards was like, oh my God, you got to see her. You've got to see this kid. You've got to see this kid. It was instant.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
So on screen, loads of fun, lots of camaraderie, lots of chemistry. Tell me a little bit about what was going on with you when the cameras were off.
Wow, when the cameras were off, it wasn't as chattery. My mom, she's a single mom. She had just actually, well, first of all, my mom was a Soul Train dancer. So my mom was like in the entertainment business. She was dancing. A lot of people don't realize she was a Soul Train dancer. She was in 5 Heartbeats. She was in the entertainment industry. Yeah. Beautiful. Model, everything. But, I came around and she kind of, I guess, put her career on hold and lived through mine. She was working a job in a medical field, and she ended up getting hindered. Ha! I just created a word. She ended up getting injured, and pretty much she broke her back. And so
Mm.
when you guys met her, like she was dealing with a lot of pain. This is not making any excuses or whatever, but
Mm.
my mom, she had me at a very young age, and not everybody deals with, early pregnancies the same as others. Not everybody deals with pain the same. So when you guys met us, she was like dealing with like a lot of pain. She wasn't taking painkillers, and her tolerance level, instead of dealing with it a certain way, it was just, that's where the child abuse came in. And I was, getting, whooped. And like, yes, some kids get whooped, but it probably went to the extreme.
Mm.
There were things that was happening at the it was happening at the loft, because they hadn't really made it to set yet. But the thing was, I don't know if you remember how the lofts were. We used to all be in the same complexes, so either we were all neighbors pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
And Kel used to stay below me. I want to say Kel used to stay below me. So pretty much if there was anything that was happening, you could hear it.
Right.
It had been happening long before the show, though. So it was kind of just
Mm.
like, I don't want to say it was something that I was used to, but it was happening. Nothing changed, So, that's happening. I'm getting, excessive whoopings, yelling at, pretty much fighting, feel like
Mm.
physically fighting, and mind you, I
It's
got the
just
show.
you and your mom.
Yeah, me and my mom. Mind you,
Wait, I just want to stop you just for a second. Did you have an expectation that maybe it would change once you were on the show?
no.
No.
It
Okay.
was like, no. It was just almost like it was an everyday thing. It was
Right.
normal.
So it was just part of your life.
Yeah, like I
Yeah.
didn't even. I felt like when I did have the show, I felt like it was an escape. So I
Mm-hmm.
felt kind of rescued, if that makes a sense. Makes sense.
Yes.
So that's why I was always on set. It was just like, oh, there's other people around.
Yeah.
I would say. So when we would get to set, that's why I was always in the dressing room, because that was the main thing. And, because like I said, I don't know if you remember, but I was always in the dressing room. Everyone else was like roaming the hallways, or they would be out on set, or
Mm.
whatever. But the only time you would have really seen me is if it was time for us to go on set, or we had to
Right.
go to the trailer, or we got to go to Universal Studios for lunch. That
Yeah.
was my escape. So that's when I had fun. It was when it was time to go back home that it was kind of just like, you know.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
But nobody knew that. It was just like, I was
No.
on set. Like you said, I was cheery, always smiling. It's like I'm
Mm-hmm.
still like that to this day. Like I could be dealing with
Yes.
like a whole death and be like,
It's your default.
yeah, yeah.
You default to that. I have a default to happiness and perkiness
Mm-hmm.
too. And it's not that it's fake. It's just the way that I am, and then everything else that I have to deal with sometimes takes me away from that default. But
Yes.
yeah, but I am like that, and maybe that's another reason that you and I connected back then. And so I want to just kind of fast forward to you leaving the show,
Mm-hmm.
which to me seemed very abrupt.
Yeah.
Um, but again, I wasn't on set. I don't know what happened. I mean, I know what happened because you and I talked about it. But
Right.
without divulging too much sensitive information, just can you talk about what that felt like to have to leave the show, and then what happened to you once you left?
When leaving, obviously I had no choice. So it was already crazy because, like you said, I'm California native. So we were flying out of state to go to Florida to film. So I already knew. I believe I was aware that the show was coming to California. So I'm like, oh, okay, awesome, great. We don't have to fly. I'm already gonna be here. So it was already known that I was coming back third season. I had a single that I had just released, and we were going to perform that single on third season. So there was talks that I was coming back. Like it was solidifying. Like I said, the show was like my safety net.
Mm-hmm.
Like one thing I will say, the meetings weren't as bad and as frequent as they were before, because obviously we were still on the property, whether we were at the apartments or the townhomes or whatever, or
Right.
on set. So it's levels of it that you can't do.
Mm-hmm.
What ended up, I guess, equaling the removal was there was a situation that started on set.
Okay.
So, I think that night we were doing a run, table run or whatever. No, it wasn't a table run. We were going over the scenes in the studio.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things which a lot of people don't know, because remember I just mentioned earlier, she pretty much was walking around with a broken back. So she wasn't
Right.
getting treated from it and everything. She was, dealing with workman's comp. And one of the things is it could be hot, like it could be burning, but she's freezing cold. It could be freezing cold and she's burning. So what ended up happening was it was freezing cold and to her, but we were all hot. Remember, it used to be hot inside there, and we had these puff coats. And I remember my mom was like, "Put a puff coat on," and I was like, "It's hot," And I was just like, "No, I'm not putting this puff coat on," and I had walked away, and that's what triggered pretty much the snowball. So it made it back to where we were staying. We were all supposed to do a guest appearance at the Children's Hospital that night. That was our first appearance. I was completely upset because now she's like, well, you can't go. That was my punishment for not putting on the jacket. When we get back to the loft, we let Kel and them use our vehicle because now I'm not going. Completely upset. I stay outside. I don't come in. Because I'm mad, she's mad. I already know what's going to happen. So I'm like, well, if I stay out here long enough, it'll blow over. It started getting really cold. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go in. Go in, go straight to my room, and a conversation happens. And one of the things was, if you like your jacket, take it off. So, you say, if I like my jacket, take it off. I take my jacket off. Apparently that was what initiated the fight, and ended up being a very physical fight. I called the cops. One of the lines was took off. So when the other line was took off and my phone got hung up, the phone was still off the hook. So the police came, and see now because, Nickelodeon, I don't know, for people listening, they may not understand how that works, but when a network pays for your lodge, they pretty much, anything that happens, the news gets back to them. So the police came. They asked if I wanted to file charges. I said no. Kel's sister had just did my French tips. She had just did my nails that day. So the next day she saw me and she noticed the nails were broke. So with that conversation, I ended up confiding in her. When I confided in her, pretty much within hours, it started spreading through the studio. Child services came. Yeah. So that's where, like I said, all of this is happening. I'm still not knowing that, it's going to, I kind of had a feeling, but I didn't know. So when child services came, I was actually on set. I was on the stage. Like, I was getting ready to introduce, I still remember it to this day. I was getting ready to introduce Monifa. And second season, my lines were already getting cut down really short. So that was I think my only line I had that whole episode. So I was all excited. I'm like, yes, I finally have a line. Ended up getting snatched. So I get sent up to the president's office, and I remember it was the president, I think vice, and I can never remember who the third one is. I think I do, but for interview sake. Yeah. So I just started crying because it's always when you go to the principal's office, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
So that was for all of us, we knew, unless it was a happy thing, if you were being sent to the president's office, dude, you're in trouble. So I just started bawling, and they're just are you okay? Why are you crying? I'm because, and I told them, I was I know I'm not coming back. But mind you, I'm just crying all at the same time. They're no, you're coming back. And it was that reassurance when they were no, you're coming back. You're gonna be back. I was oh, well, maybe, maybe I will be back. And we all got sent, back to where we came from. And we waited, I think, about a month or so. And I remember I got a call from my agent. And it was he's normally a really peppy person. And he passed away. But rest in peace. And I remember when he called me, you knew. And he was just I have bad news. They didn't renew her contract. And the situation's not funny. But those movies where they get up against the wall and they're no. That was me. I was no, because it was just because that was my escape. you know. So now it's like, oh, now I got to be back to being at home here with nobody, just me and my mom, because at least there was a break between it.
Yeah.
And you know, and I felt betrayed, you know. So
I just want to recap, because you said so much
I
in
know.
there. No, it was good. It was, but that you were 15 years old, right?
When I got released?
Cast? No, when you were cast.
No, I was 11, 12.
That's right. You were 11 or 12. So let's just say 11 years old.
Yeah.
And this wonderful thing happens where you're pulled out of, you know, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of kids for this really coveted part. Parents always come because everyone's a minor. Your situation at home was not ideal for a variety of reasons, and circumstances, but you got to participate in this thing, which you felt rescued you.
Yeah.
It made it something to look forward to, right?
Yes.
You look forward to getting up. This was safe. This was fun. You were a part of. And then the circumstances that you were encountering at home started bleeding into your work. And people started noticing, and then you have protocols and insurance and liability issues that come into play. So talent doesn't trump that, right?
Not at all.
Not at all. So it didn't matter how talented you were, which you were extremely talented. But the idea was that it was too much of a risk to keep you on at that point. And then you were how old?
I was when I got released, because I think I was supposed to be in Good Burger. So whatever year they were getting ready to film, so I feel like that was like 96. It had to be, because I was 16. I was 16, getting ready to go on 17. Yep. So
yeah.
And one of the things that they said, adding on to what you said, was also because, remember, second season, my lines were completely cut. So they were just like, you know what? We're pretty much paying series regular prices for an extra. And so it was even easier to just be like, she's gone.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't know how it was for them, but I can only imagine that for you, it must have felt, like you said, like the biggest betrayal. Yeah. Then you're back into the situation. You're still a minor. You're 16 years old, and it's you and your mom again, right? Yes. So tell me, because I know that their depression came in there for you, and that's one of the things that we talked about. Just tell me a little bit of what your life looked like post all that.
Well, the interesting thing is I had depression, I guess, during and probably before, but because I was so young, I didn't have a title on it. It definitely, I would say, like you said, post was definitely more obvious, because now not only has the network completely turned their back on me, but certain cast members, certain people that came on the show, industry associates, but I was like, you know, considering them friends, or, you know, they might have been like, oh, you're my sister, so these are like my siblings, quote, quote, in my mind. Nobody's answering the phones, because even post, so because we didn't have social media yet, because certain ones that were getting the script for Good Burger and knew that I was supposed to be in it, they're like, oh my God, Angie, congratulations, but I've already gotten the call that I'm not getting picked back up. So
and Good Burger was the spin-off movie from a Keenan and Kel skit on all that called Good Burger.
I was Beth.
Yes.
So, you know, so everyone's like, oh my God, this is such a great look for you, blah, blah, blah. And I already know that I'm not coming back. So now there's like that embarrassment. When, you know, the people started getting casted, then it was just like, oh, wait a minute. So then, you know, the calls, you know, they stop answering the calls. You know, certain people don't know you. I mean, there were people who I went to school with, were in my dressing room, but they didn't know me. So now, you know, there's like everybody has completely just turned their back. I started pretty much, so I also, I forgot to mention, I was homeschooled throughout this whole process. So that's a whole nother thing, because that would also be another key reason why when I was on set, it was like, yay, there's people, there's, you know, now it's like when I got released, now I'm back home where I'm homeschooled. There's not other people. So with that, I graduated early, and then I went to college. Now I'm still a minor in college. And that ended up being really traumatic because I had ended up being sexually attacked in college, and I used to run track. So that ended up happening because they knew I was on the #1 show, but I didn't. Like, everyone else knew who I was, but me.
Right. The perception from the outside was that here's this huge star.
Yes.
And from you, you're just, all you are is traumatized because you were pulled out of this environment that you left.
Yeah. And so now I'm just like, I was finding any way to get away from home. So whether it was go to college, whether it was like start running track or whatever. So anyway, I didn't have to go home. I tried to find the avenue, and I feel like that kind of kept me in a lot of dangerous situations, or had me like running head first into things where normally if I probably like opened my eyes, would have been like, I probably shouldn't do that. But anything to get away from home, I didn't care, you know?
Yeah.
So I was running into situations in college, and, the girls would be, just because, like I said, I'm on the team. So now, the basketball players or whatever, they're like, oh, we like her, but it's the girl and all that. So I was running into so many situations. So now I'm dealing with that. I'm smoking, now I'm drinking. The crazy thing is, I didn't consider myself an alcoholic. Like, I didn't really consider myself an alcoholic until probably, as crazy as this may sound, 5 years ago. But I had already long stopped drinking and everything. And the reason why I had that epiphany that I was alcoholic was because post me being released from the show, to when I would stay out, I'm obviously now hanging with people who are like way older than me. I was in the studio, the music studio, recording. So I'm hanging around, I'm in the streets, everything. We were drinking vodka, gin, sometimes straight, sometimes chasing morning, lunch, maybe a snack, nighttime. And it used to be to the point where I would take a whole bottle and I would like drink it to go to sleep, and then I would wake up, I would have one like by me, and I would drink it first thing in the morning and leave, but that was how I just did. Like, I would drink like almost all day, like throughout the whole day, and maybe smoke at the same time, and then maybe pop a pain pill or something. So now it's like, when I say God really has hands over me, because I'm mixing things that I really should not have been mixing, but I'm not realizing that. I'm just like, just trying to numb everything. But yeah, I used to like literally drink, and one thing that made me start looking back at it, there was this guy at our studio that I was at, and he was like an alcoholic and probably like dealt with other stuff. And I remember one day, because my rap name's Alizé, of course it would be,
of course.
And there was a liquor store around the corner, and they used to have these taco vodkas. It's almost like drinking like jet food. It's like, it's horrible, but they had like 2 for $5.
Okay.
Right, 2 for $5. So you can't beat that. And
no, you can't.
I would drink it straight though, by myself, every single day. Yeah. And one day he came to me, he was like, Zay, you got to stop that. Like, he's like, dude, like you drinking too much. He was like, when the alcoholic comes and tells you.
Right. He was coming to tell you, that he was scared.
Yeah. And because I used to just, and he's like, you're drinking the worst kind. So it was just like, I was just like eating up my insides. And like I said, I was popping pills and smoking and everything. And it was just like, I didn't even realize. And I was really reckless. Like, I fight any and everybody. I didn't care what you had between your like male, female, whatever. Yeah. Like, I was just taking it out, but I'm not realizing why.
Right. Well, you've suffered all this trauma, right?
Yeah.
And I'm assuming you had to compartmentalize it, because you kept having to show up and put on that smile and be something that people wanted you to be. Yeah. Right?
That was my alias. I feel like I created a character. I was this person that in the streets, it was just like, I didn't care. I say whatever I say, and you're not going to do anything about it. I'm doing whatever, because that's the one that you couldn't do anything to. It's like, I guess that's who I don't want to say that's who I wanted to be, but I felt more protected as that person.
Yeah.
You wouldn't attack that person.
Right.
You know?
And I think it was about 5 years ago when we connected on Instagram, because I had probably written a story. It might have been the drunk mom story that I wrote for HuffPo. I don't know which one it was.
It was the pills.
But it was pills. Okay. Yeah.
Of course I remember.
I've written a lot about my alcoholism and about my recovery. And you DM'd me. And the first time you DM'd me, I didn't know it was you.
Right.
I was just like, oh no, I missed this. It's Angelique. Like, this is, but it was, I got so much response. I was just going through DMs. You know how you do. And you just answer them, say, thank you very much. Thank you very much. But you wanted to contact me on that level, on the level of talking about pills and alcohol. And let me see, was that 20, hon? Okay. Thank you. And, you said before we talked this time, you said you'd been an open book before about everything but that. Yeah. Like you hadn't really talked about your alcoholism. You hadn't talked about taking drugs or pills or whatever. And how long has it been since are you sober?
Okay, so
tell me.
So every now and then, I'll take a little shippy.
Okay.
But but I would say like maybe a couple years like past between, like it's to the point where I don't like the taste. Like I can go without, like if I would have to like have a shot or drink before going somewhere, or like if I knew I was about to go on stage, or I knew I was about to do an interview, I needed to like take a sip. If I knew I was going to go on a date, I needed to take a sip. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Like, so I'm definitely, I can go without it. I'm at that stage. I'm more of I can't even say I'm a recreational. I think I'm less than a recreational at this stage.
Cool. Yeah. Well, I mean, what you're describing, and I'm no therapist, but it sounds like you're treating anxiety and trauma, right? Alcohol can be a very effective medication with those things. Yes. Right? Yeah. And medication can be a very effective medication with those things. Yes. We can treat, and we have an interview coming up with someone who believes that all cannabis is medication, and you use it for different things. So you were treating yourself. Yeah. But because whatever you were feeling, you were treating yourself. You were overdosing yourself, right? If this was the dose, you were doing the most.
And speaking of the most, I was doing like some people do the most by accident. I was doing the most on purpose. Like I would drink myself pretty much unconscious on purpose. And I had it where if I knew I was like, I would wake back up or whatever, then I would just like go to the bathroom and throw up and do it all over again.
Keep going.
Yeah. Because I wanted to hurry up and get that buzz. Like I've had at least maybe 3 times I was like unconscious.
Wow. And that's, so we were just talking about the difference between self-harm and life affirming, right? So that is obviously the opposite of life affirming. Right? It's drinking yourself, because what you want, and this is what I wanted when I was drinking, I wanted oblivion. I didn't want to feel. I just wanted to be. It was very peaceful to me to be in that place. What do they call it in Get Out? Oh, the underneath. What do they call it? Oh, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But whatever that is, the sunken place. That's what it is. Yes. The sunken place. Like to be there, which would be so scary for most people, was desirable for me. I wanted to be in that sunken place.
I loved it.
And so I totally get that. The other thing, when you and I sat down, was it 5 years ago?
I feel like it was.
It might have been, because 2020 didn't happen.
Yeah.
So
right. No, it did not.
I mean, it did, but I didn't see anybody during 2020. I think I did. So let's just say 4 to 5 years ago, we sat down, we're catching up, and I call it getting mommied. Like when my kids call me 20 times in a row, and your kids were calling, like we were both getting mommied like the whole time. And which I love. I love being a mom. I know you do too. Yeah. And I wanted to talk to you, one, about being a single mom, because your mom was a single mom. Yeah. And now you're a single mom. And then being a single mom to 2 kids that are on the spectrum. Mm-hmm. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah, and a lot,
Yeah. So
and
yeah.
no, well, a lot of people, well, that they know now, but and that's why I was telling you, I was just like, I don't even really talk about it because it was just
Mm-hmm.
so many things that people were just already pointing fingers, and I've pretty much shut up because like even when I reached out to you, like it took me even that long because of the connection. I felt like everybody had turned their back on me, and I didn't feel like you had turned your back on me, but I figured you knew everything, and it was just like one of those things like when you walk into a room and like everybody's just looking, kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was just like, okay, well, wait a minute, I never knew that happened. So I had to reach out because I was like, oh my God, because you were always my favorite one. And even when I would see you throughout the years after everything happened, you were always the main one that would be like, hey. And even the
Of
last time I saw
course.
you was at the Arc
Yeah.
Light. I still remember those because I would always go back and tell my mom. I was like, guess who I saw today? I saw Laura.
Oh,
So,
that makes me happy.
yeah, like, so you always left that impression, you know what I mean? And it was like, to me, you were like always the good guy, So, I remembered that. And then when I found you on social media, which I don't know how, but I found you and I was like, oh my God. And then I remember I sent the message and I was just like, oh, all right. They got her too. Like in my mind, that was what I was thinking.
Yeah.
But then when you responded back, I was like, oh my God. Like it was a period that I was going through so much because I think that's when the social media was really popping. And I was having different people coming back and forth and trying to pull stories out of me and put words in my mouth that I wasn't saying. So I really just like completely fell back because I had just had a horrible situation with an ex-publicist that decided because I wouldn't lie and I wouldn't flip things around and put people under the bus that she was going to go flip the story and make it look like I was the bad guy. And I never said anything. So I wasn't about to speak on the kids or being a single parent. And because we even being with single parent, that kept me in a situation that I probably, like, I was in a domestic violence situation, and I probably would have left that a long time before it, like, escalated to where it was, but I was kind of like, I want to break the chain. I can't repeat this. I can't be like my mom. This is what happened, and I stayed, and then I had my second child, and what was so crazy about that is that I call him sperm donor, the sperm donor, biological father has have to get out of that. I'm all about like positive energy now, like and that's a whole other thing. Like I've completely like evolved, which is I guess that's part of the healing process. But one thing, I think he's on the spectrum, and what was so crazy, I remember him. He didn't say those words. I think he was like he had ADHD or something like that, and I was like, oh, okay. I didn't register what that meant because he's the carrier, and so I'm not understanding, like, if you have a child with someone that's a carrier, that goes to your child. And so my first child, you kind of really couldn't tell, but then it was my second one, and because they were so close to each other, you could see it bounce back and forth. And so one has like more, severe, had a speech delay, right now they're both, speech therapy. One is just like getting more auditions and working more than me. Like, it's so great. Like, you can't even tell when you look at him. And then it's like my daughter, if she feels like she wants to talk to you, then she'll talk to you, but she's the one that's really like going through the speech therapy. And to have two children children have personalities and attitudes as it is anyway, without the spectrum. So add that onto the spectrum, and they're really close, they're less than a year apart, and you're a single parent, you're not getting any assistance at all. I'm not getting any child support because it was a domestic violence situation and I had to get a restraining order. It was way better to not have the person in my life than try to, because they're like, oh, you should get child support. No, it's way safer for me to just figure it out and do it on my own. So when you have to
Yeah, I just want to say, I just had to stop you for a second. I just want to commend your courage for doing that. That is so courageous. That is so brave. And I also really want to just normalize the idea of a child being on the spectrum. There are so many kids on the spectrum. And having someone like you talking about it, like, this is my kid and this is what our lives are like, is so important. You know, it's
Yeah.
what Holly Robinson Pete's doing with RJ, right?
Yes.
And there's that Hallmark special with the autistic star
Right. Yeah.
that's on this month. That she was a huge push in, but she fights and fights and fights to normalize this and destigmatize being a single mom. Like, all these things need to be destigmatized, these things, and normalized. But your courage for deciding to keep your family safe and step out into the unknown, rather than stay in a situation that might be harmful, needs to be commended. And like, my eyes are filling with tears. I'm so proud of you that you did that.
Thank you. You know, it's funny you said Holly. Holly actually helped me. She probably doesn't realize it. We did an event together. We were doing something for Christmas. And this was at the early stages, because I'm just like, oh my God. You know, like, I'm already having other issues going on. So it's just like, I have a kid that's not really speaking the way they should or whatever. But I knew she's like an advocate for us. So I remember asking her, because the schools were I had to fight the schools. Like, they didn't want to do IEPs. They didn't want to help me at all. Like, my kids were getting bullied. Like, I was literally that mother coming up to the school, like, flipping out in the principal's office, because I'm like, my kid just came back with almost like a black eye. Like, what is happening? Like, I was in a cold classroom and I watched the kid slap my child in front of the teacher, and I was livid. And but I kept on trying to tell them. I was like, you know, there's something wrong. You know, there's something that needs to be, you know, but they were trying to make it seem like it was a bigger issue than really what it was. And I remember asking her, I was like, look, I know that you're an advocate. And I remember I showed her a video, because I documented everything, whether the way they were walking, the way they were talking. I was documenting everything, because they were really trying to go there. And I remember she said, she said they're on the spectrum, but I remember she told me the level. She said, do not let them tell you it's anything else. She said, I believe with a lot of speech therapy and a lot of, you know, get the therapy and the tutors, and everything will be okay. If I had not listened to her, it would have been very easy to get discouraged, because they say they have all these systems, but if you're making a certain amount of money, and a lot of people think because I'm on the show, oh, I'm balling out of control. No, when I got released, I could not work. So I was pretty much the lower class. My pockets was lower class. So I can't afford. Therapy is very, especially if you have a child on the spectrum, therapy is very expensive. And when you have 2 children, so I'm fighting and making sure they're going to the best therapists, making sure they're getting all the best tutors, some coming out of my pocket where I'm literally spending like my very last. My insurance was like even trying to be funny, where it was like, oh, well, they didn't want to give all the classes. Like, I had to sue my children's school because they did not want to give them an IEP. I literally had to fight. We won. I sued them twice, a whole nother school, and they did not want to give them the IEP. They did not want to give them tutors. They did not want to give them ESY, which is extended school year. They did not want to give them tutors. It was like they didn't want to give them anything. And I was like, no, you're going to. And I stayed on them, and they try to discourage you. They do not care about these kids at all. It's all about money. And if you don't have any assistance, like with one of my children, I'm dealing with regular life. And I take my hat off to anyone else out there too that has children that are on the spectrum, because I have 2 back to back, and I'd be like already like wanting to pull my hair out, because I have one that has complete temper tantrums. Like, children, yes, some children do have temper tantrums, but mine is on a whole nother level. Like, I might get called out on my name. You know, might talk to me the way I wouldn't let an adult talk to me, but this is now your child. And now you've got this child that's screaming bloody murder. It sounds like you're killing this child, and you're not even touching the child. Like, I could be in a whole nother room, and this child is like 2 bedrooms down screaming, and I might be getting called out of my name. And it's like, to have that, and then you're dealing with real life, and you're dealing with finances, and then you're dealing with abuse, and then you're dealing with just, it's a lot, and you're doing it sober.
Yes. Well, and I mean, no, it is a lot. And, you know, my heart, I'm sending you love. My hat is off to you. I don't know how you're doing it, and I don't know how that you are as buoyant and ebullient as you are, but you are. I would love to talk to you more about that, but I'm getting the signal from Scott, and I have 2 more questions.
Okay.
for you. But thank you for sharing all that. And I know that you haven't talked about it because you were protective of your family, and you should be. So I really appreciate you trusting us with it. And that actually goes to my next question. You said that you would trust me not to interview for malice or turn your words, which of course I would never do.
Right.
But have you been betrayed that way before? Has anyone ever done that?
Even with the old publicist I had, my whole goal was like, I have no hate in my heart with Nickelodeon at all, or any of the members. This is probably where my eyes are going to get watery. My thing was, I felt like I was being crucified for something that was out of my control. I could see if I did all of that when I was 18 and over, but I didn't. Everything that was following was something that was out of my control. So I had this publicist that I had trusted, and I was like, you know what? I want to tell my story. And it was just going to be a one-hitter quitter. That was it. I didn't care about doing an exclusive or getting money. I didn't care about none of that. I just wanted to get it out because everybody else was telling my story. Some people weren't there. I mean, there's people that's going through the network that because, and you know how that telephone thing is, you tell the person and then by the time it gets back around to you, it's not what happened. Unless you were in Florida, you did not know. So anyone in California or any other states shouldn't be speaking on it because they weren't there, but they're going by he said, she said. So originally we did the video, and we had contacted a major blog or whatever. And what was supposed to happen was I was going to tell my story. Like I said, I didn't know. I think she must have told them that I was going to give them exclusive, which that was fine. I didn't care. But I was her first, I guess, viral client. So when we announced it and that particular blog posted that I was going to tell my story, it went viral. So she decided, she was like, oh my God, this is great. And she wanted me to start lying. She wanted me to start saying certain cast members weren't supporting me. Certain cast members had turned their back, which was kind of hard when I was going to church with one of my cast members and he had just finished baptizing my child. And then like, I'm best friends with Katrina. Me and her go everywhere together. So
you do?
Yes.
That's so great.
Yeah, like
that's so great.
And,
that's so good to hear.
And Elisa, like we were all, together, and my nose is like all starting to run because I'm all like getting all teary eyed over here. But we were all hanging. So I was like, no, I said, I'm not going to do that. I said, you know what? I just want to tell my story. I don't care about the views. I don't care about any of that. I said one thing. The reason why no one has said anything to me or tried to gag order me is because everything I'm saying is true. There's a paper trail to everything. And I said, the minute I start lying, I said, these are America's favorite. I'm not going to sit here and start lying on certain people because the minute I do that, they know that I'm lying. And then the minute they say that I'm lying, then the fans, we already know how the fans get. I said, now everything I've said has been discredited. She did not care. She told me, she was like, well, pretty much figure it out. And that until I decided to do what she wanted me to do, she wasn't going to have me release the actual story. So I think she ended up going back to that blog. I don't know what she told them because now all of a sudden they have an issue with me. But that was really what happened. The thing was she wanted me to lie and I refused to lie. And then I pulled it and I completely shut down and I wouldn't talk to any more blogs about it. And
I don't blame you.
And every time I would get an interview, like I had one person pretty much betray me. I was getting betrayed like left and right. I had like one person act like he wanted to do an interview, met him over at Hollywood and Highland. He wanted to do, an interview about me and my cast. And in the middle goes, hey, so what do you think about so-and-so? I didn't even know about any of the other stuff that was going on. So I'm like, well, that wasn't my story. I can't speak on it. But then they tried to switch it, and I'm seeing little things. I'm ending up in these forums.
When that's happening. Yeah.
So I'm really particular.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you were particular with us. And that you felt safe enough to come to me. I really do. I feel very grateful that you were able to share your story with us. And I just want to end with this because the last thing that you and I texted was about you performing with your comedy troupe.
Oh,
And that just made me smile. As soon as I saw the text, I was like, how exciting. And I wasn't just saying it. I'm so happy for you. I'm so glad because, like I said, you are so friggin' talented. And you have been since you were a little kid. It would be a shame for people to not see how funny you are, how talented you are. I know you put stuff together. I don't know that I've heard your singing. So
well, I rap.
you might have to send us a song. Or you're rapping,
Yep.
so you might have to send us a song.
Okay.
An MP3 preferably.
Okay.
Okay. And we're gonna have to end it here. But tell people where they can find you, Angelique.
Okay, well, I have a website, AngeliqueBates.com, so you can go there, or you can go to Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. I'm getting ready to launch my podcast show again. I'm relaunching it, The Evening Showdown, but it's The Evening Showdown Reloaded. And it's actually, before we were doing like, a lot of press, a lot of media. It was gossip. Now like I said, I've pretty much evolved a lot. And so now I'm only doing like positive stories, stories that are actually changing, and I'm putting the spotlight on people that normally don't get the spotlight.
That's what's up.
There you go.
Yeah, that is perfect for you. I love that. So thank you. Thank you again. I just love you. And I'm so glad that we got to have this talk and share your story with our listeners. And I hope you'll go and look her up and follow her and go see her comedy when you can. You still doing stand-up?
I'm getting back into it because everyone's trying to push
Get back
me.
into it.
Yeah.
Get back into it
Yeah.
because, it's just such a great way, right, to bring your message to test material. But whatever she's doing, follow her, listen, watch, read, and really get to know this woman, and you'll fall in love with her the way I have. So thank you, Angelique.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Angelique. Great interview.
Hi, my name is Angelique Bates, and I am the only child star in the room just now telling their story.